think out of all the can opens for all these arranger sit-downs that we've done since DCI ended, that might have been the best one. Full, good length. I mean, it's appropriate, and this is our 3rd year in a row with you, Rudy.
Yeah.
Yeah, we did 22, 23, 24. I thought it was year 3.
Mm-hmm.
So you all can see now, we're back hanging out with Rudy Garcia, watching and talking about the Blue Devils from 2024 season. But before I let Evan just kind of grab it and go, welcome everyone to the Aged Out Podcast. I'm one of your hosts, Michael Fantini, and with me as always is
Evan Worrell.
And make sure you comment, like, subscribe, share with anyone you think would appreciate the breakdown of the Blue Devils drumline from this previous season that just ended. Facebook and Instagram, give us a follow there. Never miss new content or an update on anything we're getting into or doing. Patreon.com or the join button on our YouTube to support us financially. Or now you can grab a logo t-shirt or a logo sticker at agedoutpodcast.com and take advantage of the Aged Out Fundamentals playlist. I'm telling you, I've said it every video on here. Just speeds up 2 clicks every time. Same simple fundamental exercise. Rhythmic perfection. It'll work your hands. It'll work your mind. It's awesome. All right, Evan.
Yeah, so I think year 3 now. Like, Rudy, gracious enough to join us and knows the book intimately. I know Dave Glide and Scott Johnson and probably a collective have a hand on this as far as the total package. Dave does a lot of heavy lifting, I'm sure, obviously. But yeah, we're just, thrilled to have you back with us again this year, just to take us through what the kids were doing, to appreciate what was going on with the membership. And yeah, man, thanks.
No problem. Thanks for having me, you guys. Always a blast coming to hang out and talking about these crazy summits.
They are crazy, man.
I feel like stuff gets crazier and crazier.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Dude, some of what you guys were...
Yeah, we definitely... I mean, the book this year, like the package that Glide and Scott and some of the licks, like the snare licks, were done like RC, like kind of had a hand in it. Elijah did some of the quad moments, but just as a whole, it was like we really kind of was like, okay, like what can we do that's different? There was a lot of variety in vocabulary.
Oh, for sure.
Especially vocabulary with just the metric things we were trying, and the kids, but the members from right away was like, they were just, like they, even when I'm looking at it going, this is pretty nuts. But then we like get into the sectional room and they're like, oh, they're kind of playing it. Okay, well,
they're in the camp. They're already kind of getting there.
I guess we got to do it now. Yeah.
I remember the first time we watched you, we reacted to you guys pretty early from the second show of the season video or something. And both Evan and I were just like, they're going for it. Like, if they get this, I mean, I said flat out there, I was like, if they get this all the way, they'll win the drum trophy. And like, it was just some hard, it was blatantly hard, just choppy, flam vocabulary for days, weird rhythmic stuff. I really enjoyed listening to it. It seems like a drummer's book. Like, that's a book that every like snare drummer, quad player would be like, I want to learn that. So much meat to it.
I remember I sent it to Dean Hickman, which obviously Dean, and he was just like, dude, this is so hard.
Yeah. I mean, it was difficult from a lot of levels, but they were great, man. The members were really fun to work with this year. They worked really well together. I mean, as far as camaraderie within the line, like it was probably the first time in a while where like a lot of the drum line, like section to section, member to member, like they just worked really well together. Like it was, so that made it a lot of fun, and it made it like easier to kind of dig in through a lot of that stuff, because it was definitely a crazy book for sure.
Yep.
Like, no doubt there.
Well, speaking of, let's jump in. And then at any point, like usual, if you want us to pause and talk about something, feel free. We can rewind, do whatever. So this is a ProMark video, by the way, everybody. Link to the original video in the video description. Go subscribe to ProMark's channel. Good company, good channel, all that good stuff. Support everybody. Yeah, is that a ProMark stick you just held up?
It is a ProMark stick, yeah.
All right, here we go.
I got some drum set sticks around here, too. Wow. All right, pause. Right off the bat.
Talk about that.
Yeah, right off the bat, they get up on the prop, and they're just like, they're pretty far back field, but this is sound quality and velocity, just just letting it rip.
Yeah, the short little bursts were the coolest part to me towards the beginning of it.
Yeah, those quick like down the line like
Uh-huh.
30-second notes. So those guys kind of coined this term this year. They call them landers. And so
Landers?
they
Okay.
landers. That like they made that term for like these crazy down the line splits. Like they're just doing ones, boom, 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 and they called themselves the Lander Squad. They had hats that said Landers on them. Like it was just like their thing. Like
That's
you know,
awesome.
like yeah, there were a bunch of characters that baseline for sure. But yeah, I mean, we initially were designing at the beginning of the moment, like visually. The chorus art in the back corner, they're coming up, and we had that one wedge prop, and they were like, "Can they get on that?" And immediately I was like, "We're gonna do that again. Like we're gonna put them on a prop again. Like, can we just get them up front in the field and do that?" And but once they got up on there, it was like, "Oh, that is kind of cool." Okay, like, and then obviously it was a little far back, but it was initially farther back than it ended up being. But we brought them a little closer, and just the way they were playing it, it was like, "Oh, we can still read that." So
Mm-hmm.
left it in, and they definitely owned that moment. Got
It
better.
is a good thing about bass drums. When you start to elevate them a little bit, they'll pierce through, especially
right
if there
through.
wasn't a whole lot of else going on musically at that moment yet. So
Yeah, and then we kind of found that the two that were like in the front next to the prop, we had to kind of watch their balance because the way they were, they were playing just as loud as these guys were, but the sound was bouncing off the prop. So at times,
Mm.
and make sure that those two couldn't go too ham on that because it was like, okay, you're overbalancing, guys. Like, relax. So
Yeah, it's an interesting
yeah,
sound dynamic thing to think about. I wouldn't have thought about. Now that you pointed out, though, it makes perfect sense being down there next to the prop and elevating the other ones. I wouldn't have thought of that. There's all these
yeah,
little things that people don't think about when you see stuff on the field like that. It's like you have to take all of that into account.
mhm. Yeah. And our visual staff is when they're designing stuff like that, they're so good at just like the layers, right? Like
Mm.
obviously I watched the baseline like 89% of the time. And then once in a while I kind of look around and be like, oh wow, whoa, that's happening over there. Like, whoa, what's this? Like so that was a really cool. I loved the whole intro of the show this year. It was fun. And then right after this bass thing, there's a big snare moment where they're just playing these big open diddles. And initially that was like what well, probably my favorite snare break of all of whatever, like the 3 or 4 that they had in the show. It was this really dope like snare lick that they were just like nailing like early on. But then when we staged it and they were way in the back and
Oh,
like the trumpets are just playing and like we were just like me and Scott looked at each other and he was just like, we gotta change it.
that
It's like,
sucks.
damn it.
That's
Like,
always the worst.
yeah. I
Oh,
mean, but again, it's like overall picture,
yep.
like it made sense, and that's what that part is after. Like it's just that big open roll because they were competing with trumpets playing at like fortissimo. So
All right, let's get the bass break again and let it go into that moment.
little 9-lit run. Man, that motion across.
holy
That's
moly.
more than just Boston can play for us.
Man, the sweeps in those hands. The
Yeah.
force.
They moved across the drums super quick. Whew, those are really fast tap
Oh,
fives too.
I know, so dense.
It's interesting through that too.
Yeah.
Like the shot drum is almost like a palate cleanse. Like they're
Yep.
Yeah. So that lick initially had like a lot more space in it. Like there was a lot of like just wait and then come in attack. So there was, like that lick right there was pretty challenging for us to get consistent like throughout. Like that was probably the last break that was like, okay, finally it's where it needs to be. We made a little edits, but it just was a lot of like, okay, like patience on this space. Okay, now that has to go. Like to get him to shift gears, of the 5 of them together was definitely a challenge in that lick. Like you can just hear all the velocity changes, and then it opens up, and then it's like bam, it's like out of nowhere.
Right.
So I mean, that ended up being like probably my favorite lick that we did. But yeah, just all of the velocity and the speed changes was very, very challenging on that. And then plus it was also weird because we had the 2 guys that were up on the prop and then the 3 in front. And
Oh, that's
so
right.
a lot of times, like the guys in the front, they couldn't really hear left to right. They had to go with,
Yeah.
behind them because it was so loud. They were basically, their heads were like in the players' shells behind them. You know what I mean? So some of them were like, I'm like, can you hear? I was like, I can only hear his drums. So it got to the point where it was like, then go with whatever you can hear. Like
Yeah.
it's like, so we put the
Yeah.
two on top in charge. So
That's
yeah,
funny.
that was a fun break to clean all summer.
Another environmental just
Yep.
variety and change and nuance.
Another thing the
Yeah.
average viewer listener would not think about.
It's like, oh, they're just playing on a prop. Cool.
It's like there's more to it than you think.
Yeah, I think.
I can back
Dang,
up.
those
Go
are
ahead.
fast.
Go ahead.
Oh.
Yeah, I want to hear this again
Just
anyway.
'cause I want to say that there's only been one judge that's like made a comment about that, and it was like years ago. It was like '09 when we had the chairs, like we
Yeah.
had the chairs were our props, and we had this moment where like half the snares were standing on the chairs playing like during a feature, the other half were down, and Prosperi was like, "Oh my God, I've never seen this layer of demand. You have like the environmental demand, left to right and front to back." He's like, "But now you have up and down." And me and Scott, like, we kind of looked at each other and we were like, "So we didn't think about that either, but well, we'll use it." So
Yeah,
to critique,
we'll take it.
You guys
We'll
are
take
missing
it.
it. Listen up and down. Like, it's like, yeah, that's pretty funny.
Well, it's not something you see groups in outdoor do very often. I think you've seen it in indoor plenty, different elevation changes and things, but like in outdoor, it really doesn't happen super often. I feel like.
Yeah, no, for sure. Fast.
Fast.
Just feeling the big space well together.
Yeah, it's big impact with the brass.
Little push in there, the PDD in the middle. Jump.
Yeah, so all those big bum. Yeah, bass drums.
Go ahead.
Yeah, just all those big bump. Like that was tricky from an ensemble standpoint because how we were like so spread out, and the battery was kind of centered in there, but just like the brass was doubling all those that. So trying to get that
To line up,
like
yeah.
nails was yeah, especially with all that choreo. Like it was just like layer and layers of like stacked responsibility. So that was a fun one to clean.
I've
There's
noticed.
so much.
Go ahead, Evan.
Go ahead, Mike.
No, okay, I'll go. I've already noticed in this small chunk of the book we've watched so far, was it intentional to just write a ton of bass moments? Like it just felt like there's a ton of, and they're really good, so I get it. Was that like an intentional thing, or just kind of happened with the demands of the show, or was it kind of all of the above? I guess because they've a lot of crazy bass stuff so far.
Yeah, it was definitely intentional. Like it seemed like Glide used the bass drums like they were transitioning into each little section in there. Because like I said, the way we've said in the past, like the way we design the shows, like at least visually, it's like there's no visual. I mean, there's a couple visual ideas that are in place for certain effects, but for overall, it's like we learn the music and then we show up and go, okay, let's kind of do this. Let's start over here. When the design team starts to go, so it was never like, okay, we got to add bass drums here because for a timing thing. Like it was, so initially, yeah, that was the original intent, is having the bass line kind of fill in the gaps as we transition from hit to hit.
All right, Evan, what were
And
you
even when
say?
they're just playing.
Oh, go ahead. Finish. Go ahead. No, you're good.
I mean, just like it's funny when they play like the opening feature, which is a lot of like one note per drum. It's like they're just moving so quick. It's like, whoa, like what was that? And then they play something like that where it's like it's just fours, but they play them like it's so clear, like the way it's just like, wow, it's in a way it sounds a little more impressive than the feature. You know what I mean?
Right.
Well, one thing that's what I was kind of hit on. Just I feel like he does a really good job of the juxtaposition between space and then super dense notes, to where you hear that jump, and it's just like,
oh yeah,
just coming out of that space, it just like hits you like, dude, that it's such a drastic change.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, he's really good at like finding moments, like whole beginning thing after the bass break, snare moment, and the full line. The first thing they play together, it's like you listen to the brass music, And I always laugh because when I hear it when we're learning it as a battery, especially like a moment like that is a good example, like that the first battery hit, it's like so dense, and it's like wow, like he's fitting all these groupings in there, and then like I'm like I wonder what's this sound like. What is the brass playing? And they're just like big chords, open thing, and I'm like who else would think to write something like that? It's just like I would think like just big open diddles and stuff, but like the density and like when you hear it all together, it's like wow, that's like super interesting and fresh, like very unique the way he uses density at moments in space.
Mm-hmm. Definitely.
So good job, Glide.
two thumbs up. Oh, I couldn't get the camera to do the thumbs up through Discord. Nope, didn't happen.
The little emojis pop up.
I was using like an iPad. Oh, those
That's
things.
a tough rhythm.
Yeah, came off the 2 shots well into the roll, though. That was really good.
Yeah.
I love those.
Those are fast as hell, too, those tap 5s at the end. I've got to back up because I got to figure out what happened.
The offset triple strokes where you hear that, then you speed it up, the frequency.
The way it modulates. Yeah. It almost sounds like an Excel.
Yeah.
Was there a part of that where they played like grace notes of flams, but the grace notes were presses?
There's a couple presses in there, yeah. Which is like it's extremely hard to do. Like a tight press, like coming out all that flam stuff.
Yeah.
Like
the pressure change is so difficult.
And you kill the stick momentum.
Yep.
Yeah. So I think that snare break, I'm pretty sure was RC and I think Danny kind of collabed on that. It was like a kind of like an audition piece. It was kind of used as that obviously was different, and this is like the last version of it, but super exposed. I mean, the way how close they are in front of the field, and unfortunately, it came right after an amazing like pit moment. It was like this big pit moment that kind of would get lost from a judging standpoint because the snares would hit that roll and they knew the snare break was coming. So the judges would just go run behind the pit and like wait for the snare moment. And we're like,
watch the pit first.
Yeah. So I mean, again, it's just the way it was designed. But so sorry, pit.
Just so much,
yeah.
So much beef to that.
I love that. It's a good thing. All those little bursts.
Yeah.
So many starts and stops and just like.
Yeah.
It's just demand
like
everywhere.
Like a lot of those rhythms in there, like at least in that part, like they feel like really open, but the tempo is at 180. So that was like kind of the challenge of that whole thing because we're rotating the circle and the horns are over here, and again like we're filling in the space in between unison, da da da, you know what I mean? So that was a challenge getting them to be consistent with their tempo, like on that whole phrase. And again, it's like these big open 5-lit rhythms, flam passages, and then little diddle spurts in there, and just getting but. Again, the tempo's 180, so I'm gotten to get to feel those open rhythms and moving those bursts just to keep that whole thing consistent was definitely a challenge.
Yeah, it's almost like that whole concept of just like you have to relax and push at the same time. Like it's like a weird dichotomy of how your brain's got to think about it. I don't know.
Yeah.
Classic sticks in.
Yeah.
I miss that sound sometimes. I don't get it very often anymore.
I know.
That was hold on. I talked over that about a stick click.
That push there at the end, they're doing all this motion and that.
Yeah. That was another one. If I can talk about that one real quick.
Yeah.
That was another moment. It's like, there's pit break, like over that. Like marimba's just like 16 note feature. And, you know, again, we're staging everything. And then we're doing it in ensemble. And the pit's like, you know, hey, and I'm like, what? Like, is that where the quads are actually going to be? Because they were way back, like backfield right. So like they couldn't really like hear them too much. So we kind of like went in and like made some voicing changes because it was a lot more like on the higher drums. Like that last roll used to be like on the sixth, but they couldn't figure out they couldn't hear the release, so we had to do some voicing changes just to have them like speak a little more for the pit. But the pit, I mean, they ended up doing a really good job by the end, but it was pretty challenging to line that up like front to back just because of where they were. So again, we had to make sure that those guys were consistent, if not like perfect, with their tempo control for the pit. Because if anything got a little sideways, at least from the quad tempo, then the pit was just kind of out to dry.
Yep.
That's just another cool like nuance. You know, you're talking about like, oh, I was originally on the 6th drum, but we gotta so we're gonna bump up or bump down a drum so it'll carry more. You know, another just little Easter egg of like, what do we got to do to make this work for the ensemble?
Yeah.
It's all these little considerations that I don't think about them. I'm just a drum head though, so what do I know?
Yeah, well, when you're not in the day-to-day grind,
yeah,
it
that too.
lost.
Yep. You just see the finished product and them playing clean, and you're just like, oh, great. The bass line under that.
Yeah. This is a cool part. I love this writing a lot.
Double flam drag's never a bad way to start.
Nope.
A lot of flams in this section.
Dude, that's...
I'll pause for a second.
Well, yeah, that one part too in the middle too with the really high like puttada drags. Just gotta keep such consistent pressure while you're covering so much.
It's like a mix of like pressure in the fingers to get that enter, but also like not being hard from that height. Like you got to be like light.
Yep.
Yeah.
You know, for it to speak well. So this moment from that snare break, like I thought that was a really interesting, or that's the way it was. The whole thing was written between Glide and Dinkle, just as front ensemble stuff. Like it was so cool. Like because prior to when the snares come in with all that flammy stuff, the pit's playing something that sounds like it's at like 132. It's like, but it really is like, it was like this whole field chain, and the snares come in. It's like, wow, it's definitely that, like the 172, which it was written at. And then when the full battery comes in, they're staying at that feel, but the pit comes in with that, like it feels like it's at like a 132, like it's like, so putting those two ideas together was definitely something that got kind of missed. You know, like nobody really took a step back, you know, to go like, whoa, there's like two ideas happening here. You know what I mean? Like, and then we kind of put them together. And we tried to make it more obvious. Like when we were like doing it visually, I was like, it shouldn't be anything body. Like we should be moving our feet at that tempo, so if a judge is listening to it, they're going to be like, where the heck is beat one, or what is happening here? You know what I mean?
And then it'll all of a sudden just kind of and just come together. When
it kind of does at the end, with the front ensemble. So that was probably one of my favorite percussion moments in the show. Was this break? Because I also just love like triplet flammy stuff. Like it's just like
it never goes out of style. It's like it never goes out of style. It always feels good. It sounds good. It's cool.
It's like the classic like shopping spree. You're just like, all right, let's just play some weird stuff. Here we go.
Yeah. Love the bass unisons underneath. Yeah.
I love this part too.
Yeah, this is cool.
This whole moment just flowed so well.
Good fallout.
Yep.
Yeah. A lot of fun to listen to.
A lot of moments.
Yeah, this is the second percussion feature.
So what was
That split
happening there,
part's
by the
cool.
way?
That
That
split
AB, like...
Yeah. Yeah, so this is the second feature of this production. This was the third production on the show. So it opened with that whole triplet thing. Then there was like a high brass feature in the middle, and then it went right into this 190 feature. So that whole snare break was all like in groupings of 5, like in the beginning, like half note 5s. So it was really like, what is happening? Like when it comes in, because the pit break part of it, like at the 190 tempo change, just like this, just 16th notes, bam, fast. Then the snares come in, it's like, whoa, check it, check it, like. So it almost feels like it goes to like a halftime. But then right at the end, like those big singles, it was originally just like it's all up and then a shot release. And Scott was like, I kind of want to do a split, and I thought he was going to do just a stock split, like, and I'm like, yeah, that'll be kind of cool, I guess. And he goes, no, I have this idea to do like, different, we're going to do groupings of 3, like each pair is going to have a different accent pattern. And I was like, what the hell is that going to work? And when they did it, the first time I saw it, I was like, whoa, I'm like, that looks really cool. And I was like, what did you do? So it's basically like there's 3 patterns. I'm pretty sure it's for somebody, and other people go ga, 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 ga. So it's groupings of accents of 3. So either going da ba da ba, or you're going da ga da ga da, or da ga da ga da ga. Like,
so it's like the grid pretty much. He just took the grid and kind of overlaid it a little bit from player to player and had them offset.
It reminds me of the old BD accent tap. Yeah.
So basically, he just has 3 accent patterns. So yeah, so like,
and
3 people have the same.
It was split among the voices, but this is just split among the snare line itself. So it definitely pops out. You're like, wait, what just happened?
It's one of those moments where you actually get to do something musically interesting, and it also looks nuts. Like sometimes you can have phrases you write that just to the average viewer, it's like, oh, they're just playing snare drum, but this was going to look impressive as well as sound impressive. So it's really nice marriage of the two when you can pull that off.
Yeah, that was definitely a really cool split. Oh, Mario didn't overplay. Nice.
Shots fired.
I tease him.
Yeah. I feel like that's a BD callback right there. The singles where the body turns like that. Singles to your eyeballs.
Yeah, and the quads. I mean, originally we had that we staged that chunk. They were nice and close to the front. After all, they were staged really well for this whole feature. And we got them in this form, and then at first we were kind of like, we're gonna make it a body thing. We're gonna add certain things here, and like just make it a moment. But then it was like, do we need to and especially at first, like when we were talking to Scott about it, I was like, like I don't mind them just I originally wanted them to be just stoic and just playing that, and then kind of getting a little more out of control like towards the end. I didn't get a real chance to do that, but definitely liked them being a little more like just playing. You know what I mean? I'm like, because again, that whole phrase was like all these crazy different like flam groupings of half note 5s, 5lets over 1 bar. Like it was all this like crazy little module, like nothing in there was really straight except for like you'll hear that, like that's just 16th, 8th note. And so it was like, well, why don't we just play it? Like just be like, look at what we're playing, like type of thing. Like so that was the idea behind like not doing a more coordinated like body thing. But then they started doing that thing on the 16th notes, and it was like, okay, you guys can do that, because they really wanted. They were like, can we put some body? We have ideas. We have this, and we're like, no. No, we don't want that. Like we want it to be like.
Did they just do it one day without asking, and you guys were like, okay, that kind of worked?
Well, the quads started doing it. Like they were the ones who started doing it, and then everybody did it. Like at one point, and then it was like, all right, you guys can do that. You can do that one. Like that's fine.
We'll give you that.
That's funny.
Yeah. But I used to tease the quads because they were like complaining about like they were like, man, we're breaking sticks, like your stick's breaking all the time, and I'm like, okay, you guys realize that we have a part in our show where we're going shot, 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 like over our heads, and they're like, so I'm like, well, we rehearsed that like 80 times today. Like stop giving me crap about my stick breaking. Like we have a kind of an aggressive book, you guys. We do a lot of rim shots, so
we're playing a lot,
and it's wood.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So rhythmically
just
accurate.
So smooth. Oh, there's more landers in there.
Oh yeah, lander squad.
Even the little decrescendo in the end, and it came back up.
All right, this guy.
Yeah, we got to talk about this.
Yeah.
I'm gonna pause and restart this moment because we were talking at the beginning of it. We'll let it play, and then we can break it down if we want.
Yeah, I mean, I can kind of describe it a little bit. So this opening bass thing is a transition out of our ballad into the top of the closer. And this opening bass thing, I don't know if you're familiar with the tune. I think it's "Can You Hear the Music?" It's from Oppenheimer. It's like this whole thing that's kind of building and keeps modulating, then fading away, then modulating. And so the pit is playing that whole melody, and they're modulating, playing different fivelets, and so the bass line is kind of matching, like obviously filling in what they're doing also. So there was a whole opening pit thing. And then when this add-on starts, basically the formula is we had them like in a stack visual, like a tower in threes, in groups of three. The way the whole thing was orchestrated, it's three players playing by them, like just those three for 3 counts. And then the next 3 join them and play for 3 counts. So the first group plays 3 counts by themselves and then 3 counts with this other group. They go away. They play their first 3 counts with that group, then 3 counts by themselves while the other 3 comes in. Like it was just this constant conveyor belt where there's 3 playing, then there's 6, then there's 6. Like it was like this whole layering thing. And it was so exposed, like diddle attacks, like, and that was the idea. It was like, look at our individuals, like it was like, look at how crazy hard this is, and they're handling it before we go into like a full battery moment. And the way the whole thing was layered in, it's like they're not adding in back to front, like it's like front and then they're adding in from the sides. And so that obviously was a huge challenge. And so like any little thing, it was like you're gonna hear it, you know what I mean?
Yep.
So it was definitely a crazy moment. Like there was just any kind of like demand you can stack, like multiple layers. Like I've never seen anything, at least I haven't cleaned anything that had that many layers. Like it was, front to back, side to side, like every direction of difficulty was
cold attacks.
Just every cold attack.
To me, this is just the high risk, high reward moment that I just come to expect from every Blue Devils percussion book. Like, I feel like you all are just known as, it's a good thing. I'm not saying it's a bad thing. Like, it's just, I just know, I expect every year you all are going to do something that I'm just like, wow. It's like, the balls to try it in the first place.
That one year you guys did like the add-in, like, roll thing with like, I think
that was 22.
Ryan Ellis and them were there maybe.
No, that was way.
It's just like everybody's like add in, and then they like walked way back away. I think it was like Ryan and like Evan Espanto, and then they like come all the way back up and like add in at the very end and stuff. Just those Accelerando add-ins.
Yeah,
this reminds me of those type of moments.
Yeah, and a lot of that, I mean, it comes from Scott. Like he comes up with things which, again, like us as a staff, what we're doing, it's like, are you out of your mind? Like what? I mean, and then we start doing it. And it's like, okay, all in. Like, let's go.
Yep.
Like this can be like really cool. And
I mean,
yeah,
when you got the players, you might as well take some risks. Swing for the fences. Why not? I respect it.
Yeah.
I mean, you got to continue to push the activity.
Yep.
Yeah. I mean, it's funny you like say that. Like I mean, we like to like try things that like we like to look at things and go, okay, what hasn't been tried yet, or what how can we elevate this, and what's gonna push the envelope? And it seems like I don't want to say no one cares, but I will just say like it's like things are looked at differently, at least from a judging standpoint. Like, at least they've seemed to evolve a certain way, where what's being rewarded is it's got whatever you're doing. It seems like we're getting dinged for having multiple layers of demand. You know what I mean? Like it's like things now have to be a lot more clear, like what you're doing. Like if you're like it seems like the more layers we have, like we're getting just ticked on them. You know what I mean? Like and but so it's just it's like it is kind of like a I don't know if we're not, I don't want to say we're shooting ourselves in the foot because I love doing what we're doing. But yeah, like there's a lot of moments, like no matter what you're doing, like any kind of drumline designer, like it's like it seems to be nowadays, it has to be clear and it has to be clean as possible. Or else none of it really doesn't matter. You know what I mean? So
right. So they'll basically, from a judging standpoint, they'll kind of lean more towards letting if there's any kind of dirt in there, like they don't care how hard it is. Or I don't want to say they don't care, but it doesn't matter as much because the dirt was still in there, even to a small amount. Yeah.
Yeah. Whereas, you know, like this moment for sure, it's like oh yeah, well there was we caught, you know, like they would catch like a diddle attack here or there. Like they'd say they'd maybe catch like 2 errors. And it's like, well, you had those 2 moments, and like so in critique it'd be like, yeah, but do you see how hard that is? You see how what like it's not even just the cold attacks, it's cold attacks. They're coming in like literally behind that group and then bam, attacking.
Yeah.
And it was like we did that like 9 times, you know what I mean? It's like you caught a little thing, but do you realize how hard that is? Like
it's almost like zoom out a little bit in that moment.
Yeah, and it was, and that's how that moment was kind of like was adjudicated. It was like they were right there, just like okay, like I gotta pick the attacks. When I would have preferred if they would have just stood back a little more and been like, wow, okay, because there's also a pit playing.
Yeah,
it's like going with that. It's like so yeah, it was tough. It was a tough sell, and that moment just went by so quickly. You know what I mean? To where
a lot of like the hand to hands and like the trade offs and stuff. You're like, whoa.
Yeah, and again, it was designed that way to be like, whoa, it's just going and going. So it was hard to have a judge like listen to it and then comment. Like I think Lightsky and Brooks were probably one of the guys that did let it play out and then go, okay, like wow, that's hard, as opposed to like, wait, and it's like, but you're missing all the other ones. Like, come on, like
you're talking through the good ones.
Yeah, so this was definitely like something we were working on, like all the time. Like and the other challenge though is we couldn't rep it too many times because of how choppy this whole section was.
More amount.
So we would get like 3-4 reps in and it's like, okay, chill, like rest the hands. Like let's just hang out for a second.
Yep.
But definitely a super unique moment, something that I mean, out of all the crazy stuff that we've tried and put on
there was nothing else like it this summer. That's
for sure. I don't think I've seen anything like it probably ever, honestly.
Yeah.
Or to this degree of what you all did. So let's enjoy it. We can watch it more than once if we want, and we will zoom out and we'll take it in.
The hand-to-hand was so fast.
So I'll pause. We'll get the whole thing here in a second, but I'll also point out there was one of those in there, one of the hand-to-hands that was one quad player and one snare drummer. That's hard to balance one quad and one snare on a hand-to-hand like that. Like to get them to play the right velocities. And
was it Aubrey? And they did like the almost like
a was odd. Odd and Eddie. I was their little freak. I was super fast. And then you had after that hand-to-hand snare to snare. While Amari played a role, which he used to play the single with them, but it was funny. Like we were trying, like it just didn't sound right. And then whenever he just played the role over their split, it was like, oh,
it blended better. Yeah.
But again, originally this whole thing, like all those pods at first, like they had parts written out, but then we were like, okay, well, take those kind of accent patterns and what do you guys got? Like let's like Scott told them, like, you know, come up with something. flashy, notey, whatever you guys can do, try it. And so they of course went nuts with it. And so then we had to step back in and go, okay, well, we'll make
Too
that
much.
this and do that. Yeah, like okay, like we had to like tailor it again. But again, it was just all about showing, the individuals. Like look what we like. Look at the line we have. Like these guys are like monster players.
That's something that you all do more than everybody else too. Isolate individual strong players, and you're also everyone's good. Obviously, no one's bad, but like you all isolate the individual or pairings. I feel like a lot more historically than other groups do.
Yeah. Landers.
That's like a head shaker. You're just like, what? Ooh,
Good job holding on.
Yeah. Yeah, and that wasn't all just sextuplets. Like it was like 5, 5, 6, 5. Like it was like kind of modulating around.
Fives.
Classic closer beats.
Yep.
Yeah.
I bet the horns are going nuts.
Yeah.
He loves those violins.
Yeah.
Oh, good hand speed change in the middle of that.
Oh, bringing it back. Hey, can you pause it real quick?
Yeah.
I gotta talk about this part. So, did the whole monkey drumming thing that we like did back in '94, and then originally that like after that was a tempo bump and then a segue into like the actual ending of the show. And then originally the transition was this like long quad, like it was a pretty long quad break. Which was like notey, and it was like supposed to, like Glide wanted it to be like a moment that was like bringing us home, like just finishing this whole thing, which we worked on, got like really really good, and then it was like no, we're taking it out. Like we had to take it out because a lot of the upstairs judges were like, I don't, it's an odd transition having a quad break here, like we don't know, and so then we took it out, and it was just this vocal sample and like drill, and all of us were like, I missed the quad break. And granted, they were like pretty kind of far back, but everybody was like, I missed the quad break. And then we did like the first show with it. All the upstairs judges were like, oh, this is great. The space and the silence. And it was like, sorry, quads. Like it's gone. Like it's out. Like it's out.
Womp, womp, womp.
Yeah. So sorry, Keith 5.
Well,
It happens. It happens.
They didn't have a scarcity of notes, at least.
No,
so.
they got to play a lot outside
No,
of that
yeah,
too,
they've been. Yeah, I really liked this quad line this year. Like they were awesome. Not that any past years were any less, but they're just each one of them are like monster players, like really really good.
Are they
Even though
younger,
fought
older?
every now and again. It was my same 3 dudes from last year, like Eddie, Harry, and Amari. And then 2 new guys, the 2 ends with Chris, who's a Pulse guy, and then Truman on the end. He's RCC. So 2 new people. Both had never really done drum corps before. But just when we got them all in the room together, like even from the get go, it was just like, wow, okay, these guys can play. Like they were just money like all year. Like
That's funny how the indoor season is so big out on the West Coast where you're at that you can have cats that are just like never really done drum corps anymore yet, but like we can still walk into the Blue Devils audition room and just like, yep, you're good. You did indoor a couple times. Like you can, you're in the Blue Devils now.
Yeah, I mean, Truman definitely, RCC Truman definitely auditioned last year. He almost made it. He was on the cusp, and then when he came back this year, it was like, okay, yeah, like he's ready. And then Chris was money from the get go, so it was an easy plug in for those 2. And then I still have my only one that aged out is Chris, the Pulse guy.
Oh wow.
So the other 4 are coming back, so they're gonna be
another good Q5 year next year coming, everybody.
They're gonna be something.
And then I think isn't I thought I saw that Odd didn't age out either. right?
Odds coming back. I think just Masa, Jacob. Yeah, the snares. We got a lot of snares coming back too.
All right.
All right.
Everybody watch out next
Yeah.
season. Man, I feel like a
see.
lot of groups are having a lot of retention, not a lot of age outs. Like I know Phantom had almost no age outs and they were really good. You guys sound like you got a ton coming back, and you guys were already good this past summer. Like I think next year's going to be
fun.
Next year should be a fun summer.
And again, it seems like that's another whole indoor influence where you have, members that march an indoor place, and like now you're getting this cohesion with DCI lines where it's like, obviously you had all the Broken City people, and it's like, oh yeah, well, duh, they're gonna go to Crown. You know what I mean? Like, and we've kind of had that with RCC, but we are kind of getting like a little more like Pulse people too. So it's like coming to us. So it's like it's funny seeing these correlation, like Taha, like the Monarch people, like obviously at Mandarin's, like a lot of the Monarch people were going over there.
Yep.
So you're getting this I guess like loyalty to different styles and arrangers. I think that's pretty cool.
Yeah. Nothing but good for the activity, consistency, and everything. All right, I think we have like 1 minute. Let's let this finish out, and then we can talk about whatever else and see where we go.
Boom. Check the spacing.
Yeah, gotta look good.
We always did stick in a fist.
That's what we used to do that too.
Ooh, that bass run. Up, finish up there. Ugh.
Yeah, they split everything.
Dude, I would be interested to know how many, if somebody counted, fivelets there are with the first and fifth note accented with the rolls.
Yeah. Yeah,
he likes that one. He likes that one.
Yeah, he does. He also writes like a lot of unisons. Like we have a lot of bass unisons.
Yeah.
Which, sorry, baseline. Like I loved you guys last year, but that was probably our kryptonite, was consistent unisons. So I love you, Landis.
You're talking about 2024 this past summer.
Yeah.
Well, not to rag on the basses, but this is just a funny correlation to what you just said. You guys do the flam competition in the lot, and and like they were going around blah blah blah, and like somebody was like, who won? And they're like, the basses, and like Scott's like, they don't even play any flams, and somebody's like, the unisons are flams, and I was like, oh no.
Oh no.
I was like,
I want to say that was me. I started doing that because that started a couple years ago. Oh, maybe it was last year. Like when he started doing the competition like regularly, like every show he's doing it. And so the basses, like at least last year, like they won a lot. And so when they would go, oh, bass drums, and then I'm like, they're not even playing any flams. Like they're just soloing it. Like they're not even playing the exercise. So this year I started doing that when Scott's like Scott started saying it. They're not playing any flams. And I was like, the unisons are flams. Like
oh man,
that's teasing
you gotta like laugh at yourself.
Yeah, you gotta laugh at yourself, man.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, it's just band.
Nah, they were great. I mean, the whole line was. I loved working with this line. Yeah.
You guys were fun to watch.
That quad split for the flams, though, the quad around was bonkers
hard.
I was like,
and that's always a thing because they basically write it themselves. And there's in past years where it's just like we're at all days, and I'm just like I have to like keel. I'm like, you guys, why did you make this so hard? Like why does this have to be so hard? Like why is this something we have to worry about? You know what I mean? So it's always something that we like me and Elijah will talk to them about. It's okay, you guys sure? Because I was like, I'll write you guys a sweet ass round that you guys can play easy. They're like, no, those rounds will be from the 90s. I'm like, oh, like, like, so this year they were like, no, we got it. But then, of course, as we're doing shows and they're having to like be put on the spot, then that's when they start to wise up. Okay, no, we're going to change this. Okay, now we're going to change this. Yeah, but they're the kings of just moving grace notes, like just everywhere. Like they just always have to move grace notes. Like I'm always like I'm moving accents on rounds, which they do too, but now they're like they want to move the grace notes. And I'm a stickler on heights, so I'm like, it's got to be something we can play with the correct heights to. Like, I don't like the rounds where we're just like, oh, well, the heights, whatever. This looks cool. Like,
Quads don't look. Quads don't
I'm
play
like,
heights.
no.
We all know this. Quads play
Oh,
rhythms and drums.
I try to get him to. Like, to me, that's what separates a great quad line, from a good quad line. Like,
Well, I think that's
if
part of why
I
you
like with
always stand out to everybody. You all are more
I-
defined than a lot of other quad lines, so it makes you all look like, as Evan puts it, aliens or
Like
robots.
aliens moving around.
But you're doing some wild stuff, but you're doing it in a very, I guess, mathematically
Yeah.
accurate way, so it's just very pleasing to the eye on top of the ear.
yeah.
Dean used
And
to
then
say
granted,
that. Go ahead.
Go ahead. No. I mean, I just like I've always liked that. That's something that I kind of got. I want to say it from Roger, like when he was teaching, like he would kind of talk about that, like yeah, it's a cool round, but you guys aren't playing the heights type of thing. You know what I mean? Like obviously Vega too was a stickler with that, but a lot of that stemmed from like Roger's mythology.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was just like, oh man, he's right. Like
Yeah.
why? It's like it's one thing to keep it comfortable, but are you playing the heights? Like
Yeah. It's
play
just
the
that
heights,
extra
man.
layer of difficulty on top of what you're already doing that's hard. So,
Balance and blend.
yep. Evan, you were going to
Yeah.
say something a second ago? Was it Dean? Dean? What
Oh
Dean
yeah,
always said?
he just used to say that playing the flams exercise was the most nerve wracking thing. He's like, book was fine. He's like, I get nervous playing the flams round.
Yeah.
So
Which I kind of I asked the line that last year because I kind of just was thinking about it and I'm like, hey, guys, has a question. They're like, yeah. I'm like, why is this so stressful? And I think it was Toby in the snare line. He goes, because you guys make it stressful. And I was like, how do we make it stressful? Because you put us on the spot. And I was like, so?
you're always on the
And the
spot.
quads are like, no, but but you guys do like put us on the spot. And I go, I don't want to hear from you guys. You guys write your round. Like you do a lot of that to yourselves. Like,
I mean,
I don't know.
playing the flam book, it's no different than playing in like subs.
Yeah.
I mean,
Or the
Yeah.
snare feature or the quad feature when in the middle of the book, like you're by yourself, everyone's looking at you, nothing else is going on. Like,
Yeah.
same idea.
But I think there is something about, when Scott goes, okay, we're gonna have a competition, and then because I can just see them. I would always look at them and they're like, okay, they're like talking, who's gonna go first? Like, who's going? I'm like, look at you guys stressing already.
Freaking
Like,
out.
but BD's
Yeah.
done that for years. I mean,
Yeah.
you guys used to do that with the shopping spree. It's like, all right, we're going to go around the line. Here we go.
yeah, we definitely did it when I marched. I don't know if he did a competition though. I think he just had us play it each,
Yeah.
and then we
Yeah.
played it together.
Yep.
Yeah.
Well,
Classic.
it's
Mhm.
been 54 minutes. You guys want to hit
snap.
anything else, or you want to wrap it up?
I mean, no, other than was a great season, man. Like this summer was. I mean, the top 8 drum lines. Like there was a lot of talent out there.
Oh, yeah.
Like shout out to Paul and Vanguard and the team. Like man, I got to see him a little bit like towards the end. Like they just sound great. Boston was killer. I mean, Colin. Like shout out to those guys too, man. Like that was a really cool
It was a real strong
line to
percussion
watch.
year. Really
And
strong
of
percussion
course,
year.
congrats to the fam and all the friends and the homies at Coates. Like they were great. Like always love what Rarick and Roger put out and Alan Justice and that whole team over there.
Mm-hmm.
So congrats to those guys.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
A lot of good stuff going on, but let's
Fun for me.
Yeah. It's great to watch as an audience
Yeah.
member and get to just follow it and be armchair judges.
Can't wait to get out there next year for sure.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, man.
25.
Hey.
2025. That's weird to think about.
Yeah.
All right.
Go to auditions.
Yeah. Drum every day to
Yeah.
the fundamentals
Practice.
playlist. Practice. Chop out. On a drum pad, whatever you got. All right. Let's wrap it up. Thanks for hanging out, everybody. Comment, like, subscribe. Facebook, Instagram, Patreon. Join button on YouTube. agedOutPodcast.com. Grab a shirt or a sticker Aged Out Fundamentals, drum every day, and we will see everybody in the next one.
Peace.
Later, guys.